is Allan Almeida, and I restore really rare vintage cars to concourse conditions. So by concourse we mean what the car would be when it did come out in the 1930s or the 20s or up till the 50s or 60s. But a lot of people don't know that before that I was restoring vintage Jeeps. So these are World War II Jeeps that are of the 40s, 50s, 60s. So about then is when I started off-roading, and unlike the cars that we see down, I was off-roading with cars that had no doors, no roll cages, no roofs. So we did a lot of hardcore stuff without taking safety then. And as time went, we wanted to off-road more extreme. We wanted to modify our cars. And in the 90s, early 2000s, no one really modified their Jeeps. So that's when we took it upon ourselves to start modifying cars. And that's how, I think it was about 10 to 15 years that I did modify cars. I was lucky to work on a lot of cars of people here, Doc's car as well. And I can safely say that modifying your cars is pretty much like an employee would be at office trying to please their boss or their superiors. That how much ever you do, it's never enough. There's a whole scope to modify. So what I want to tell you all is there are steps that you should go about it, how you modify it, and you have to appreciate each single mod that you do. So there are 3 directions that you can go to with a 4x4. So you buy a 4x4 off the showroom. Number 1, you can have an occasional off-roader. What's that? Pretty much like all of your cars. So drive them through the week, or it's your second car at home, and on a Saturday, Sunday, you'll probably take it out, off-road with the family, off-road with friends. That's an occasional off-roader. Then you have a very serious competitive off-roader, something that you would take for a rainforest challenge. I think a few people here have one of those builds. And lastly, you have something that's an overlander, like Bairam still doesn't think he's an overlander, but so a rig that you would build for overlanding. So there are 3 different directions you can go in. So you have to make sure and be clear in your head as to which direction you want to go in. Because if you take this path and you go all out, you're going to compromise your car's ability in the other 2. So Bairam's car, for instance, just an assumption, his Pajero fully kitted is not going to do well in a competitive event, or a competitive rainforest challenge car cannot go across countries. So it's very clear to begin with what you want to do. I can safely assume that most of us here want to build a weekend off-road or something that you will occasionally off-road with. So I'm going to tell you about mods that you can do to such cars and the correct sequence that you should go by. And lastly, I think I'm just going to give you a little thing about how much money you should probably spend. So the first modification that someone should do, unfortunately, is not on their car but on themselves. So it's very important that you invest in skill. You don't have to invest, doesn't only mean money, it could mean time. You need to invest in skill. Need to learn how to drive off-roading. How you drive on the road, how you drive on the highway is pretty much very different how you drive off the road. So invest in skill, learn how to drive, learn recovery techniques, learn off-road etiquettes. There are different rules that you follow. Because if you have a car that's modded and say you've spent a couple of lakhs, and if you have zero skill, you're going to get stuck, embarrass yourself, put yourself and your passengers to safety. So skill and investing in that is very important. And luckily for all of us here, we have the best Dr. Teja. So a little clap for him on his 4th anniversary as well. And I'm assuming since all our students here have already invested in skills, so that's a good thing. Now coming to modifications to your car. Why do you need to modify your car? So the company sells you a Thar, a 4x4 Thar, which is advertised as an off-roader. They show videos of the cars going up the hills and in different terrains. But we still modify them. I still modify them, so I'm just saying, just in case you all are wrong, I still modify them. Why do we modify them? What are we trying to achieve? I'm just going to note 4 points. But first I'm going to ask you all, can anyone tell me what you're trying to achieve by modifying your car? What do you want your car to achieve?
Better ability.
Better?
Ability.
What ability? But how?
To go through whatever you want to go.
By gaining what?
More power, more traction.
Traction, very important. So the first point is better traction.
Clearance.
Ground clearance, second point. Anyone else? Something
Safety.
that, exactly, I was just saying, I have a lot of respect for Doc because apart from everything he teaches, he emphasizes on safety. Third point, safety. And the fourth point again, which Doc again always emphasizes, is on recovering yourself just in case you're stuck. So your car has to be equipped to get out from a stuck situation. So 4 points. You want better traction, you want more ground clearance, safety, not only yours but also of your vehicles, because after you off-road, if you can get back home, if your car is still stuck for whatever reasons, it's not safe. And lastly, to get out in case you're stuck. 4 points. So the first mod that someone should do to their car, and I still say it's a mod to your car, is get yourself recovery gear. It's the number one thing. You can get yourself decent recovery gear, toe strap, shackles, basic set of tools, gloves, and take pretty much a stock car and go to Doc's event or learn with Doc or any other event with your friends. So invest in a good recovery gear, and with experience I think you can get traction ladders, high lift jacks, air compressors, a lot of things, but a basic recovery gear is the first mod to your car. And why I call it as a mod, because I like that gear in your car securely lashed down, so it is part of your car. Second mod, and which is obviously the very obvious mod and most of us here do it, is tires. Now you have two options of tires getting off. You either go in for an all-terrain, which is an 80 tire, or a mud terrain. So all-terrain are more versatile tires. You can use them pretty much daily like your highway tires, and you can also off-road with them to a certain limit. So a lot of people opt for all-terrain because it's also their secondary car or their primary car to office every day. The second is mud terrain, which are more aggressive tires, much better traction on loose soil, on slush, on rocks, pretty much all different types of. I think the obvious choice for me and something that I would advise would be a decent set of mud terrains to go, but not too aggressive. So you can drive the car daily, you can take it to work still. The downside is, yeah, they are a little noisy, you have little less grip, but most of our cars do not go really fast. So my suggestion is ditch the all-terrains. I know a lot of people do all-terrains. Ditch the all-terrains, get a set of mud terrains. You can still drive cars in our city on mud terrains and occasionally take them off-road and enjoy off-road, because we love off-roading when mainly in the monsoons. And with all-terrains in slush, you're pretty much getting stuck, you're getting towed. So mud terrains is my option. If you have the budget, get both. Use all-terrains otherwise and use mud terrains when you off-road. That's also what a few friends do. So that's tire pattern, tire design, tread design. Next is tire height and tire size. So size meaning width and height. Why do we want both of these? So wider tires do have more contact patch. So you have more traction. Is it the best thing? Not always. If you have not too thick slush or snow, a narrow tire would slice through it and get traction down below. So you really don't want to go too wide. So a lot of people think wide tires look better, and apart from looking better, they off-road better. Not always the case. Too wide also has a lot of disadvantage actually, because even if there's a narrow path, you have to, with a wide tire, you probably have to go off the path. So keep it from a stock size, I'd always advise to go a little wider, but not too wide. Height is something I love. And why height? Because my second point was ground clearance. So with height, you get ground clearance. Eventually, whatever you do to your car, the only thing that's going to give you ground clearance is your tire size. And by that I mean your tire height. Because everything else you do, your main bottom point, which is your differential, is going to be the same. That will only change by your tire size. On a stock car, you can go probably one size, two sizes upsize without, touching anything or cutting your fenders. So two sizes on a stock car, safely go, and please do it. With the lift kit, you get bigger tires that you can put in, more ground clearance because your entire chassis raises, more articulation because suspension lifts are designed that way. And if you choose the right suspension, your ride quality even on the road would be far better than your stock car. Proper lift kit on the Thar, for instance, a bumpy car, becomes much better on the road and off the road. So suspension lift is definitely what you all should do. Body lifts, no. Then after tires, we've done our lifts. The next mod is protection. You need to protect your car. We all love our cars, we spend money on them, so we don't want them getting damaged. How do we protect the car? So everyone I know or used to know, still know, first put bumpers. They look good, I think that's why, but that's not the mod you do first. You first get a set of skid plates. Always get skid plates. It can start with amount of money you want to put, just a basic front skid plate, then go all the way through. But the first mod is a skid plate. And what does this do? It protects your car's underbody. And underbody is the mechanical, so your engine, your gearbox, your fuel tank, very importantly. Because one bump to this from rocks or anything, you're stranded. You're stranded in the sense it can be such a bad strand that you can't get back to point A from where you started. So invest in a complete skid plate. So your engine's protected, your gearbox, your fuel lines, your differentials, your fuel tank. So when you buy a bumper, you should see how it is designed. Don't just see online how it looks in the front, and see how it's designed. It should have proper mounting points onto the chassis. Because I've seen bumpers that are mounted onto not a chassis, to the weakest point of the front of a car. And they sell a lot, they used to sell a lot on gypsies then. So you have to make sure that your bumper's mounting points, which is the heart of the bumper, is properly mounted to the chassis. Then you also have to see that the bumper is designed such that it doesn't destroy your approach angle. You'll all know what approach angle is because I'm sure you'll have all done a few courses with dog. So it should either be the same or increase your approach angle. A lot of bumpers are huge, big, they look beefy, but your approach angle is completely ruined. Another very good advantage of a bumper is you can have proper recovery points on a bumper. The stock recovery points on any car, be it a Thar or a chimney, and I drive all of those, are pretty much shitty. One strong toe of the chimney and my recovery hook was bent. So stock cars do not have good recovery hooks, front or back, and mostly you'll be pulling yourself out. So the bumper gives you the strongest point where you can put a tough recovery hook. So make sure the bumper you buy has good weldings on the recovery hook and it is thick enough. Lastly, on the bumper, it's an important subject. Why? Because all of you put bumpers. Is make a note, ask whoever you're buying it from, what thickness of steel is there. I'm sure not many of you all know the thickness of your bumpers or what material is used and what thickness of steel. And ideally a bumper should be between 3/16 of an inch to 1/4 of an inch. If you don't understand, it's about 4.7 mm to 6 mm. So ideally between that is the gauge, what they call the thickness of steel. When I build bumpers, I make sure that the main mounting points would be where it is mounted to the chassis, your front part which is going to take the impact, and if your bumper has a winch plate, should always be 1/4 inch. No compromise on that. Any bumper you'll buy, 1/4 inch. And the rest of the bumper, which is the wings and the sides and everything fancy, can be 3/16. But again, not less than 3/16. And for the main points, 1/4 inch. That's something you should make a note of, 3/16 to 1/4 inch. Last level of protection to your car as an occasional off-roader would be your rock sliders. Why? Because again, we go through a lot of rocks, a lot of trees. So it saves the side of your car. Again, we've seen rock sliders, iron dog, that have been mounted onto the car. Rock sliders are not meant to be mounted onto your body of your car. They are meant to be mounted onto your chassis, and that too securely, not on one bolt here, one bolt there. Make sure they are mounted at least across 4 bolts, if not more, and to the chassis, and they should have no connection and they shouldn't touch your car at all. important point. What else do they do? So when you're off-roading, one, they'll save you from a rock. When you're doing really tricky off-roads, you can use them as pivot points. So you can put them against the tree and turn around if you need to. And they also, if you can use them for your high-low jacks. And God forbid you've toppled. The nicest and the easiest place is to pull your car back, and the quickest also using the rock sliders. So your third point is rock sliders. Again, as you become more experienced, you can do rear bumpers, you can do roll cages, but I'm only going to give you mods for something that all of us take over the weekend. So this is your protection, protecting your car. Lastly is cabin mods. So why do we need mods in our cabin? Safety, convenience. Certain small cabin mods that I used to do, still do, are grab handles. I love grab handles. They are the nicest thing when you off-road. For you, for your passengers behind, the ease of having something to hold on to, even while getting in and getting out of your car. Grab handles, very important. Storage boxes. So we all have tools in our cars, we have recovery gear. If they have not stored properly down behind, lashed or securely mounted to the bottom of your car, it's useless. So mount all of that nicely. Have tie down points, small hooks to tie down. Use straps, tie down everything. Sometimes when people tell me that, Alan, please remove this car out of this obstacle, there are cases where I've been driving and you've seen a screwdriver coming past you. So people don't lash stuff well. It's very important because something can hit you on your head. Worst case, something can come under your feet where you can't press the brake. So it's very important to lash down everything. Fire extinguisher and a first aid kit. So all of us should have a small fire extinguisher in arm's reach, again securely mounted. Again, you don't want a fire extinguisher hitting you on the head. So securely mounted, and basic first aid kit. Obviously when you do overlanding, we're going to take a comprehensive one, but we are going for a few hours. So basic first aid kit could be band-aids, a little bit whatever doc would advise you that, but basic first aid kit. And lastly, for the interior mods, is a good set of rubber mats. If you have a bad mat, you can slip while getting in, while getting out, while driving. When you want to press the brake, you might slip and press the accelerator. So a good set of rubber mats that don't let your muddy, wet feet slip is very important. Before I end, I'm going to tell you just two more mods that you can do, because a lot of the cars that I've seen are pretty serious. Number one is a few engine mods, especially for, like in my Jimny, I can't off-road without the little throttle control. I find it very underpowered. So I would definitely do a few engine mods, like a basic tune, the throttle controller, whether it is the EVCX or the other ones for the Jimny. A snorkel. Snorkel if you're water wading. If you're not, I don't find it very necessary. I don't like to go into water too much because the car gets dirty, personally, so not too much of water for me. But I have a snorkel though on my Jimny for Bombay, so for the floods. So it's a very important thing to have a snorkel if you think you're going to do water wading. And lastly, on the mechanical mods, I would advise, and again because I'm old school, is a set of differential locks. Differential locks do wonders to your cars. And to end with the last mod is a winch. I love to go off-roading. It's one of the rules that you shouldn't do or go off-roading alone. I love off-roading alone because it gives me a little bit of my me time, my peaceful time. So I've always been doing that, and not something I advise at all. But a lot of us have families. We like to just, we have a 4x4, take them out to the river. So if then invest in it can be a simple winch. Thumb rule is obviously that the winch's capacity should be 1.5 times the weight, but I've always done 2 times the weight of the car should be my winch capacity. So a winch, and before you start the whole journey of modifying your cars, weigh your pros, your cons of how much you're going to drive off the road and on the road, and then do your mods. So in the beginning, you're going to probably off-road a little bit. Spend wisely. The minute you realize you're enjoying the sport, you're enjoying the activity, your better halves are enjoying the activity, invest more because it's safer for them as well, it's safer for yourself. So as you go along the journey of off-roading, weigh everything, weigh your pros and cons, then spend wisely. And the last piece of advice is do each mod one at a time. If you have the money, don't send your car and say, sab laga do. That's like
Light.
a light. A light. So people will just go and say sab lagado, and the cars comes with pretty much everything. But when you off-road, you don't realize what each mod has done. So it is very important that you do each mod one at a time. It can be just for one weekend. Off-road with that single mod, because you know that single mod will, you'll understand the advantage of that mod. It will make you a much better driver when you learn the advantage of a tire. So if you're doing a tire and lift kit together, you're going to be a king. But you know, you don't want to be that. You want to first learn the advantages of a mud terrain tire. Then you do the lift kit and you realize with the higher ground clearance how much more you can do. So you appreciate the money you spent. Again, because Fahim Bhai said lights. So lights, again we off-road in the night, we drive in the night. A good set of auxiliary lights can never ever go wrong. So a good set of lights in the front or light bar, stock lights are really useless. So you need a nice set of auxiliary lights. We all of us in our group have. Fahim Bhai has for the rest of you on his car, I think. So a good set of lights. So it's pretty much modifying your car to off-road is, I think, like a relationship with your better half. Again, better half. So you've got to work and work and work and work to make it perfect. Yeah. Thank you.